Over 70 laps of this 2.7-mile excellent Eschoril course. The top marks to the Portuguese for what they did last year and the improvements they've made this year, which include resurfacing the whole of the top straight, which Ayrton Senna in pole position and his colleagues are sitting on now, and you look at the bottom of your picture. The lap record last year put up by Niki Lauda, 1 minute 22.9. That's a speed of 117.2 miles an hour. But Ayrton Senna, in his electrifying pole position lap for this year, which he put up yesterday, was not only considerably faster than Lauda's lap record, but he was also faster than Nelson Piquet's 1984 pole position time. So in spite of the fact that this year the downforce of cars has been reduced because the wings are smaller and the little winglets to the left and right of the big main rear wing are no longer allowed, in spite of that, the cars are already, in only the second race of the year, going faster than they did at the end of 1984. That just shows you how quickly Formula One developments take place. 26 on the grid. I suspect there's a slight delay while they're getting some of the people who spun off back into their positions on the grid. So, Senna in pole position. He was also fastest on Friday's timed practice as well as Saturday's timed practice. He was fastest in one of the two untimed practice, and Elio De Angelis, his teammate, was fastest in the other untimed practice. So the JPS Lotus cars have been fastest in all four practice sessions.
Yes, the Lotus chassis is obviously working very well indeed, and if the track stays damp, I would think that that will work very well for the Lotus, because any question about their fuel consumption will immediately go out of the window. They'll be able to run as much power as they want, because of course obviously when the track's wet the cars don't consume as much fuel. And I really think that a wet race or a damp race would seriously increase their chances, because of course it makes cars more reliable. And the one thing we haven't yet seen from Lotus is full-scale reliability on the McLaren type scale. But of course, when the track's wet, there's less strain on all the mechanical components. You can't give the car as much power, it doesn't corner as hard, and reliability goes up generally for all the cars.
I spoke a moment ago about Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi car. I don't know why they've got that caption on, it isn't him, but just as a matter of interest, he is actually going to start from the pit lane. They did indeed have a delay getting his car round, and they're pushing away now Nigel Mansell's car. I would love to be able to tell you why, but I haven't got the remotest idea. Starting it. So Nigel Mansell with Martini in the pit lane. I'm looking directly across the course, and it would appear to me therefore as though, and that's bad news for Nigel, the Williams mechanics rushing up behind him. So two cars, the Minardi and Nigel Mansell's Williams, are going to start from the pit lane.
Yes, that's in compliance with the regulations that they state, because cars that don't come round, take up their place on the grid at the right time, have to return to the pit and then have to wait for the field to go before they can be started away from the pit lane. But in fact, in a 200-mile race with these changeable conditions, it really shouldn't put them completely out of contention.
From the start, and you saw the half-minute board going out for the parade lap, this is not the start of the race. From the start, they go into turn one, a fourth gear 160-mile-an-hour bend in the dry, not all that much slower, so in the wet. So Senna leading away, Alain Prost, then Keke Rosberg. There on the right is Elio De Angelis. From turn one, the course drops downhill into the third gear, turn two, at about 125 miles an hour. They keep on going right down towards turn three, which is a horseshoe-shaped bend that they're at now. Now they start to climb uphill in third gear, down into second gear for turn four, the left-hander that they are at now. Then there is a very quick bit with a right-handed kink in it, and there's the kink at the bottom of your picture. and they're doing about 180 miles an hour at race speeds along this section, where they're going to turn 6, a second gear, 100-mile-an-hour left-hander. There's Senna leading round it. It's Senna's responsibility, of course, to lead the field. And there's one of the Ferraris down at the... No, it's Eddie Cheever. I just saw the flash of the helmet. So Eddie Cheever is starting from the pit lane with Nigel Mansell and Martini. Where were we? We're into turn 7 now. They start to climb uphill again now into turn 8. That's the third gear, 125 miles an hour corner. Now there's another left-handed kink that they are approaching now. That's second gear, and then into another long right-hander and back to the start.
Yes, we had a good close-up of the track surface then, and it is quite wet, and the rain is still coming down, not hard, but in fact, since I last spoke of the weather 5 minutes ago, it looks to be consolidating now, the wet weather. The cloud has come down, and the weather looks as if it's going to stay like this, certainly for the foreseeable future. So it's definitely a wet weather race for the drivers, but if it stops, it'll dry quickly because there's a strong breeze blowing, and with 26 cars charging round and that breeze, it won't take long for the track to dry.
And they'll all be on wet tyres, so that's going to be exciting.
Now, take Paul Murray, start again and tell everyone about the weather and the fact that people start in the pits.
Wet weather then for the start of the Portuguese Grand Prix, and starting from the pit lane, Nigel Mansell, Eddie Cheever and Pierluigi Martini, as up to the starting grid come on the left of your picture for the first time in his career in pole position in his yellow helmet, Ayrton Senna. To the right, the World Championship leader, the winner of Brazil, Alain Prost. Behind Senna is Keke Rosberg. Behind Prost is Elio De Angelis. Behind Rosberg is Alboreto. Behind De Angelis is Derek Warwick. Then behind Alboreto on the left, you can just see Niki Lauda, and the blue car on the right, round turn 3, and it's Ayrton Senna in the JPS Lotus, leading a Grand Prix for the first time in his short career, with his teammate Elio De Angelis in second position. Prost is third. Fourth is Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari. Fifth is Derek Warwick. Sixth is Niki Lauda. Behind Niki Lauda in 7th place, it's Andrea De Cesaris. Then it looks like Patrick Tambay. But anyway, those are the first 7. And the Lotuses have never been of the JPS Lotus is like for the first time on a wet track surface.
That's such a prodigious talent, but De Angelis is going well, and there's Nigel Mansell having a spin already. He's had a spin on the warming up lap, so Mansell is definitely dancing gigs all over the place at the moment.
Yes, and Nigel Mansell had a bit of car control problem in Brazil, you will recall. Was pushed off the course yesterday by Riccardo Patrese, but at the end of lap 1, Ayrton Senna is leading. Elio De Angelis is in his spray in 2nd place, and of course with Prost in 3rd position, with Alboreto in 4th place, the man you are looking at, the race leader, 25-year-old Ayrton Senna, has got an enormous advantage because he's got a clear track in front of him. He can see the course. He hasn't got the spray to fight his way through, and he should be able to break away here. And if he does, he will then be able to turn the boost down, but it's very, very early days to start talking of that. Lap 2 out of 70. Senna.
Well, they managed to get Rosberg away shortly after the field had gone, but with a push start, whether he'll get disqualified for that, I'm not sure.
And that is Jonathan Palmer already coming into the pits after a brilliant warm-up drive in 9th position, and having had a master switch problems during the second time practice, which meant that he started on the grid only in, 23rd position. But still, the masterful Senna, this is only his 2nd season of Grand Prix racing, is leading Elio De Angelis. And everybody, of course, here at Eştoril is wondering whether, for the first time in such a long time, anybody is going to be able to see off the Marlboro McLarens which have now won the last 9 Grand Prix over 1984 and 1985. Peter War and Senna De Angelis were all confident night when we had dinner with them, and again this morning after the warm-up. And the real question is reliability. The McLaren, as ever, is beautifully set up. People, the Lotus team, have been working extremely hard on their cars. They're on the wet weather Goodyears. There's only one compound they can all use, the Goodyear users, and it's Senna leading, De Angelis second, Prost coming into the picture in third position. Fourth there in the Ferrari is Michele Alboreto, and Niki Lauda has now moved up into fifth position. So the two McLarens and the two JPSs are all in the top 6.
Yes, and with Senna out front, a fine performance by Elio De Angelis, who's driving very well indeed, and Senna is not getting away from him at all. He has, of course, as Murray said, the advantage of being the one man in the race who can see properly where he's going, because the spray isn't too bad at the moment, but it still makes it pretty difficult when you're following another car.
And on this, the third lap, race order then, Senna leads, De Angelis second, Prost is in third place, Alboreto is in fourth position, Niki Lauda is in fifth place, Derek Warwick is in sixth position, in seventh place it is Andre De Cesaris, eighth is Patrick Tambay, ninth is Nelson Piquet, 10th is Stefan Johansson, in 11th position it is Riccardo Patrese, and in 12th place it's Gerhard Berger. That is Alain Prost, third, chasing Elio De Angelis, who is behind the yellow-helmeted Ayrton Senna, number 12, still leading on lap 3 out of 70. Well, now, where are the British drivers? Derek Warwick is in 5th position at the present moment. Martin Brundle is well down the field in about 22nd place out of the 26-man field. Jonathan Palmer we have seen come into the pits, and Nigel Mansell is still trying to fight his way up as Stefan Johansson comes in 9th position. So Stefan Johansson in 10th place is closing up on the 9th position man, Nelson Piquet. Here he goes, and behind Stefan Johansson in 11th place in the green Alfa Romeo, Riccardo Patrese. The Alfa Romeo going much better here. They've got the engine right. Hopefully the fuel consumption problem has been overcome. The aerodynamics are still not quite right, and behind Riccardo Patrese it is Thierry Boutsen in the first of the two arrows. Stefan Johansson right up on Nelson Piquet, and Patrese crowding the Swedish driver, Johansson. Stefan is regarded by all the British as an adopted Britisher, being freely called Steve Johnson in the pit lane, and everybody's absolutely delighted that he's got the Ferrari drive. Pacing himself, closing right up on Piquet now. This is lap 4, and it's still Senna leading. It's still in second position, De Angelis. It's still in third place, Alain Prost. It's still in fourth position, Michele Alboreto. Fifth is still Niki Lauda. Sixth is still Warwick, and Johansson going through now. And is he taking Nelson Piquet with Chiva? No, Piquet is going to close the door in his face as they come up to the right-hander, and Chiva's going to try and take both. Patrese is going to try and take both of them.
Yes, well, the Brabham may have been struggling a little bit with their chassis, the Brabham team this year, and certainly with their tyres, but they're still mighty quick in a straight line, and that is Hainaut, Francois Hainaut, who is off in the other Brabham, but Piquet, quite a charger, but that was overcommitted, and one feels very sorry for Stefan Johansson, but he seemed to be rejoining then. He was churning up the dirt, but certainly a setback for him. It's a wonderful opportunity for Johansson. He's fiddled around in Formula 1, captain tells me, so his car was damaged and he's walking away. But for Stefan Johansson, he's fiddled around in uncompetitive teams and never really got to grips with Formula 1 because he hasn't had the opportunity with a good car. And then to suddenly, out of the blue, be lobbed into the number 2 seat at Ferrari is really a wonderful opportunity because the team appear to be returning to form at the moment.
And And you're looking now, well, that's one of the Rams out, and I only got a quick glimpse at it, but I think it was Manfred Winkelhock. We'll check again. It was Alio. So Alio is out, Patrese is out, Aino has gone off the course, Patrese's gone off the course, Johansson's gone off the course, and there are Beloff and Winkelhock. So both the Rams have now hit trouble, and Winkelhock looking over his right shoulder as well he might, because someone's going to be arriving very quickly in a moment. And the race order on lap 5 in this spinning Portuguese Grand Prix is still Senna leading, and it's still De Angelis second. It's still Prost in third position, Michele Alboreto fourth, Niki Lauda is still fifth, Derek Warwick is sixth. In seventh place it is Andrea De Cesaris, and in eighth position is Piquet being chased by Boutsen that we're looking at, and behind Boutsen 10th is his teammate Berger.
Well, you might think sitting at home that it looks a bit messy, all these world-class top drivers spinning around all over the place, but you see how Piquet there sliding the car a lot and twitching away, but what you have to remember is that these cars are running something like 750 to 800 horsepower on a very greasy, damp track, and they can spin their wheels at any speed. And the other problem that the drivers have with these turbocharged engines is that you put your foot down and nothing much happens.
And as you can see, Prost has gone up into the position there, chased by Michele Alboreto, and Ayrton Senna. Has he got De Angelis behind him? I didn't see him. Sorry, James.
Yes, I was just saying the problem in these wet conditions isn't just the massive amount of power that the engines produce, it's the suddenness with which it arrives. Because of the turbocharging, you get a little lag on the throttle, you put your foot down, and nothing much happens. And just as you're getting frustrated, all of a sudden you've got 800 horsepower with a big bang, and the back end of the car just simply lets go.
Lap 7 now, no change in the first three. It is indeed in the lead, Ayrton Senna, chased by De Angelis, but now Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari is closing right up on, has closed right up on Alain Prost. This is the exciting battle in the first 6. It is for third position between the little Frenchman in the Marlboro McLaren and the quiet Italian, Michele Alboreto, in the brand new, absolutely rejuvenated 12685 Ferrari. And you can see now the gap. There is De Angelis, here is Prost third, behind him Alboreto fourth, fifth position still Niki Lauda in a strong watching place, because lap 7 we're only 1/10 of the way through the Portuguese Grand Prix, and Alain Prost is in a good position too, in fact, because as he comes through to complete the lap chasing Elio De Angelis, he is on 4 points for the World Championship at the present moment, if he finished where he was. See the little vortices coming up from the rear wing of the cars as they go into turn 1. That's aerodynamics at work for you. You can actually see it at that corner. And it's very, very wet indeed. And as James said, trying to balance some 750 horsepower is a very considerable achievement. Alain Prost. Alboreto fourth. And all the time, remember that the cool, calm, slightly aloof Ayrton Senna, leading the Grand Prix for the first time, is not letting the pressure get to him at all. An astonishingly calm and collected young man. Dominated practice, and now he is dominating the race. Are we going to see, at this early stage, I ask myself, the first JPS Lotus victory in a Grand Prix since 1982, when Elio De Angelis won in Austria?
Well, you can see how the track is trying to dry a little bit on the line, but I think it's fighting a losing battle, because the rain is still coming down, not terribly hard, but steadily, and enough to keep the track pretty wet, which in fact won't be a problem for the drivers because they won't want it to dry out just yet. They're all on wet tyres, and it just adds to the complications of things.
16th Grand-Prix this, and already he's had a pole position for this race. He's had a fastest lap, he's had a second place, he's had 2 third places, he's had a 6th place. Twice second in the World Karting Championship, one of his few motorsport ambitions, and that's off goes Piercarlo Ghinzani in the sole Acela in the race, who's now been caught and about to be passed by one of the Rams. I imagine that's of Manfred Winkelhock, because it would seem that Alio is out. Senna, here he is leading. I was saying one of his few motorsport ambitions that he hasn't achieved was to win the kart World Championship. And off spins Mauro Baldi in the only Spirit in the race with its turbocharged Hart engine. And Senna comes right up to him. My goodness, that could have been dramatic. You see the yellow flag waving in the background to warn Senna that there's trouble ahead. But had that flag marshal not been prompt, we might have seen Senna hitting Baldi, and that would have been tragic.
Yes, that was a bit of a nasty situation, but Senna looks to be driving with plenty in hand. He's balancing the car very well. He's pulling away just a little bit from teammate Elio De Angelis, who's also doing a very sensible job in the Lotus. One of the things that drivers must remember, and it's not so easy in the heat of the moment, and that is that this is a long, long race, and there is no immediate panic to get things going. And there's Eno walking back from his retired and slightly damaged, slightly used Brabham.
Yes, Francois Eno, who drove for Ligier last year, has not yet shone in the Brabham. And in the pits is one of the Rams. See John McDonnell bending over the car. And we are now up on De Angelis, thanks to Mount Baldi getting in their way, and Alboreto is right with them. So it's a 3-car scrap for second position: De Angelis, Prost and Alboreto.
It was interesting there seeing the three of them take that corner, because Prost, the Lotus and Ferrari both went right to the outside. Now when the track is wet like this, the conventional line is not necessarily the best, because it may have a bit more rubber and oil, and beginning to look a little bit hungry. He's now definitely looking for a way round De Angelis.
As they come up on and past Ghinzani in the Acela, and as I said earlier on, Prost and Alboreto have got this extra problem of the spray. They're doing about 185 miles an hour down the straight. De Angelis can see very much better than Prost can, and Alboreto, of course, is in the worst position of all. And where is Alboreto? He's dropped back a bit. Prost has broken clear of Alboreto. Prost in third position in the red and white McLaren, and there is Martini, who has spun yet again. This young Italian, who in the opinion of a lot of people should not really be in Formula One, is an ex-European Formula 3 competitor, and tried to drive the Tolman last year unsuccessfully, and he hasn't shone in the new Minardi. But Prost is certainly shining, so is De Angelis, looking coolly in his mirror. That is Philippe Alliot walking in, so he is definitely out of the race. As we know, are Riccardo Patrese and Francois Eno. We are on lap 11, the race order. Leading Senna, second the man you are looking at, De Angelis, third Prost, fourth Alboreto, fifth Niki Lauda, and Derek Warwick has already been lapped by Ayrton Senna. Derek Warwick in 6th position. In 7th position is Warwick's teammate Patrick Tambay. In 8th position it is Eddie Cheever in the Alfa Romeo. And there's a problem down there on the corner. It's the Minardi. It's Martini's Minardi on the course. They'll have to get that out of the way. It's right on the racing line. And Prost now is closing. Is he going to go through and take De Angelis in second place?
Well, he had a good look there, but as Murray just said, it is a big problem following another car with the spray, because your visibility... De Angelis, quite a big slide there by De Angelis, but he's holding the car very well indeed. but you have to look sideways for geographical points on the side of the track just to know where on earth you are.
Alain Prost, last year's winner, which clinched the World Championship for him by half a point. Elio De Angelis was 5th last year, and that is Mauro Baldi coming into the pit.
I would suggest that to try to understand just what it's like following right behind another car in the spray, I should explain to you, most people at home will know what it's like when you're following a lorry on a motorway on a very wet day and you're 50 yards behind him. You're pretty much blinded by spray. Well, these tires are 5 times as wide as a lorry tire. They have no mud guards at all, and they're designed to pick up water in order to clear the track so that they can get at the actual track surface, and especially for it. So it's a lot worse than a lorry spray situation.
Yes, and of course, when you're driving down the motorway trying to pass a truck, you know you haven't got to brake for a corner at about 180 miles an hour. And Prost crowding right up on, he's showing De Angelis the nose of his car in De Angelis' mirrors all the time, and they have already lapped double world champion Nelson Piquet. That is how fast and aggressive this Portuguese Grand Prix is. Still with Senna leading, still with this battle for second position between Italian Elio De Angelis and his JPS Lotus. So the Renault engines JPS Lotus cars are in 1st and 2nd places. Then this McLaren in 3rd place of Alain Prost.
Yes, in the meantime, De Angelis, of course, is now more involved in looking behind him than where he's going, which inevitably slows the car a bit. He's having to drive defensively because of this assault from Prost. In the meantime, Ayrton Senna is taking it very nicely and steadily and now leads by some 14 seconds.
Lap 13, the order. Senna, De Angelis, Prost. Michele Alboreto is 4th, Lauda is 5th, Warwick is 6th, Hornby is 7th, Chiva is 8th. Mansell is 9th, coming up through the field well. Berger is in 10th position. Johansson is 11th, and Boutsen is in 12th position. And there are still...
Well, we're staying with the motor racing, but just to tell you that we'll have the badminton horse trials for you at 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's the show jumping stage, the final stage in the 3-day event. That's at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then at 5 o'clock, we'll have cycling, the Paris-Roubaix 265-kilometre race. That's at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We've also got some snooker for you fitted in between all of it. But now let's continue with the Grand Prix.
Incidentally, I malign the unfortunate Derek Warwick, who has not, in fact, been lapped by the leaders, but is still in 6th position. And I was giving you the places. Boutsen is in 11th position. Johansson is 12th in the Ferrari after being pushed off by Patrese. Martin Brundle is in 13th position in his Tyrrell with its non-turbo engine. Behind him is his teammate Stefan Beloff. Then Nelson Piquet, who has been lapped, and you just saw that happen. Here is Piquet coming down the straight. Behind him is Niki Lauda, who's about to lap him. Lauda in 5th position. There is Derek Warwick in 6th place. And that's Tombe. There is Patrick Tombe, number 15 in the turbocharged V6 Renault. That's the one with the new engine. But still, the pacemaker, the racemaker, is Ayrton Senna. Patrick Tombe at least got some points in Brazil. He's got 2 of them, finishing in 5th position. Now, there is Prost, who's lapped Piquet there, and that is Tombe, number 15 in the Renault, who is in 7th position, just off the leaderboard behind his teammate, Derek Warwick. So the Renaults are much further up than people expected them to be. They've been working very hard on the cars since Brazil. They've made them lighter. As I said, Tombe has got the new engine. The handling is improving, but there's still a great deal of work to do, and that is the 6th position man, Derek Warwick. Warwick surges past Nelson Piquet. That may or may not be a comment on the different makes of cars that they're using, because Piquet is certainly one of the best, believed by many people to be the best driver still in the Grand Prix circuit. And Alain Prost has closed the gap again. He had dropped back The battle for second place is being renewed. Elio De Angelis, who had increased the gap between himself and the red and white McLaren of Alain Prost, is seeing that gap diminished as the Frenchman closes up. But all the time, Ayrton Senna threading his way through the field as they come up to one of the Williams.
Prost is definitely quicker than De Angelis if he could get a clear run, but overtaking is really so difficult. Prost, the big question mark, though, is going to be what Prost can do about Senna's big lead if and when he can get past De Angelis, because he's definitely being a little bit delayed.
Senna, as we look at De Angelis, is leading by 15 seconds now. And there is only a 7-second gap between Elio De Angelis, who's in second place, and Michele Alboreto is still in fourth position. Speeds of this course vary at the top extreme from just under 200 miles an hour to the slowest bend on the course, which is a second gear at about 100 miles an hour. There is Keke Rosberg, and again Alain Prost is having a go to try and get past Elio De Angelis, but he's going to have for the right-hander at the end of the course. Well, Stefan Johansson started this race in a Ferrari. We expected him to be starting in a Toleman, and we expected his teammates in the Toleman team to be John Watson. Well, Stefan was deemed to change to Ferrari. John Watson is here, but not driving for Ferrari, and here he is to Toleman, and here he is to tell us why.
Well, Mary, the situation for Toleman is the same as it was in Brazil, and that is there are no tyres available yet to the team. After the Brazil Grand-Pri, there was a fairly positive indication that Pirelli could supply tyres for at least one car for Escherill. But by the time all the teams returned to Europe and Pirelli had a chance to look at their production position, they discovered they wouldn't be able to supply tyres for Escherill. So now we have to wait again and see what the situation may be for Imola in 2 weeks from now. There's been so much gossip in the pit lane this weekend. I don't know what's the truth and what's the story and what's myth. We're hoping that we will get a positive indication for Imola. I would certainly be very pleased to start there.
And as you say that, Alain Prost makes yet another try to get past Elio De Angelis, who again will have nothing of it. And you probably saw from the caption that Patrick Tambay has now moved up ahead of Derek Warwick and is into 6th position in the Renault.
Yes, that was an interesting piece of information seeing that there, because Alain Prost was quicker out of the final turn onto the start-finish straight, came out alongside De Angelis, and De Angelis outpowered and accelerated him. So once again, whilst the McLaren is such a wonderful chassis, they still aren't super quick in a straight line, and but I suppose one thing that the McLaren drivers have to work hard at is that, and that is, of course, getting past other people, because when you're slower than the other car on the straight, it does make it very difficult.
The chap that you saw walking away fleetingly there was Gerhard Berger, the Arrows driver, Thierry Boutsen's teammate, and Boutsen is in 11th position. And we are now on lap 17. Niki Lauda, that we look at, the reigning world champion, is in 5th position, still in a strong place because anything could happen. There goes Tambay. There is Martini, who has rejoined the race, being passed and lapped for probably the umpteenth time by world champion Niki Lauda. Martini, I think, very much out of his depth. And close up behind Niki Lauda is Patrick Tambay. So Patrick Tambay is starting a challenge for 5th position to try to take it from number 1, the world champion Niki Lauda. Into the pits comes Nelson Piquet in his Brabham, coasting. That's not driving. He's rolling in. So have we got a retirement from Nelson Piquet to join Francois Hainaut, who has already gone out of the race, and Martin Brundle passes Thierry Boutsen. Now Brundle in the Tyrrell with the DFY Ford engine is driving a beautifully balanced, easier to drive the lower powered car in these very wet and slippery conditions, and Martin Brundle is making the most of them. So is Stefan Beloff, that we saw out of the pits in the newly sponsored Brabham. Goes Nelson Piquet to rejoin the race, and I suspect in effect to get in some more testing mileage. They've had an enormous amount of that, but now he's going to have some more. Lafitte into the pits in the Ligier. And De Angelis and Prost closing up on Stefan Beloff in the Tyrrell with the Ford DFY engine. Now you will see how the superior power of the turbo cars enables them to blast past. And that is that's Johansson off the course in the Ferrari. What appalling conditions. And let us not forget, because we haven't seen him for a long time, Ayrton Senna, who is quite calmly increasing his lead lap by lap. He's now just under 18 seconds ahead of Elio De Angelis. There is Alain Prost in fourth position. Still Michele Alboreto in third position, Prost. Still Michele Alboreto in fourth position. Still Patrick Tambay in fifth as Keke Rosberg goes through. And here is De Angelis lapping Beloff, followed by Boutsen. De Angelis moves across quickly to take up the line for the corner that follows, and Prost was not able to get past, so that will give De Angelis the opportunity to break away a bit, as into the pits now comes Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari. Now, is Prost going to be able to get past Beloff here? The answer is yes, because Beloff runs wide and lets him through. Lap 19, 70-lap race. The tyres off Johansson's Ferrari, new ones going on under the direction of engineer Tomini, who is Johansson's race engineer. And now De Angelis is passing Baldi. He's closing up on Thierry Boutsen. He seems to be dealing with the traffic extremely well, and Alain Prost is not getting the brakes here. He's going to have to fight very hard to close up again to the man in the white helmet, Elio De Angelis. And they're having trouble getting on the left front of Stefan Johansson's car. He's having a pretty fraught Portuguese Grand Prix meeting, because he had considerable troubles in the first day of practice. First of all, he had to go out in Alboreto's car, only to find his feet were much bigger than Alboreto's, and he quite literally couldn't operate the pedals. Then he had a mechanical problem. The gearbox of his car went, and he had to go out in last year's car. And as Martini comes into the pits yet again, Johansson finally qualified in his race car yesterday, and Mauro Baldi has spun off again.
The curbing there where the car went into the barrier, so the wheels are a little bit awry, and it's probably sitting on its tummy.
And Prost has dealt with the traffic superbly, actually. He is now right back with Elio De Angelis, fighting for second position on lap 20, and the race order remains Senna, 21 seconds now ahead of De Angelis, who has got Alain Prost here just behind him in third position. In fourth place, and now De Angelis is coming up to Winkelhock in the green and white Ram. We look down on Keke Rosberg's stalled car, which has got Alio's Ram beside it, and Johansson is still in the pits as yet again. Prost must be fuming in the cockpit. He knows he's faster than De Angelis, and De Angelis is a very, very difficult man to pass when he doesn't want to be passed.
That's right. Prost's been attacking him for over 10 laps now, and he got right inside him then, but still De Angelis is a hard man. But he's driving fairly. He is now coming down a good bit harder. We now have really quite hard rain, and you can see from the picture that the spray is increasing and the track's really getting very wet, and this is not going to help Prost as he follows, because visibility is beginning to get really bad. Now, I don't know what they're doing about that car. I would have thought they've got enough pairs of hands there and enough muscle to manhandle it off the track. They're not very heavy, the Grand Prix cars, for obvious reasons, and they've really got to move that, because that's in a very dangerous place.
And I'm quite sure that if they were British marshals, they would be up further along the course, giving earlier through, seeing it for the first time. And of course, having to suddenly change direction on a wet surface like this is very, very tricky indeed. Johansson out of the pits on a new set of wet weather Goodyears. And Alboreto is now within sight of Prost. I do believe that Michele Alboreto, who is in fourth position, is closing up on Alain Prost. There goes the Frenchman. Now, are we going to be able now to see Alboreto? No, we are not. This is lap 21. Senna, De Angelis, Prost, Alboreto. Fifth is Tombay. Sixth is Warwick. Down to seventh place has gone Niki Lauda, out of the World Championship points, and he did not score in Brazil. Mansell is coming up through the field fast. He's in eighth position. Eddie Cheever is ninth, and the last man to be on the same lap as the leaders, because the 10th position man, who is now Martin Brundle, has been lapped, as has his teammate Beloff, who is 11th, and Stefan Johansson is 12th in the Ferrari.
Well, we haven't seen much of Ayrton Senna this afternoon because he's been all on his own, leading the race, and he's driving absolutely immaculately. I can tell you, there we are. He is some 30 seconds clear of the field, and you can bet your life that he's not pushing it hard, because with a 30-second lead, who needs to? And he's stroking it along. He's driving beautifully smoothly, and he really looks at the moment having well set up. Now here is Prost, once again in a position to challenge. Now there we see, yes, he's made quite a mess of that, but there is no reason why that car can't be dragged. Half a dozen people could, I would have thought, drag that car off the track and get it out of the way. I can't believe that they're going to leave it there.
Well, I'm afraid I can. I hate to say it, but there's a chap there just vaguely flapping a flag, and nobody's showing any great inclination to get out on the circuit. I say again, if it had been the British Motor Racing Marshals Club, half a dozen stalwarts would have had that car off the course in the twinkling of an eye. And it's a dangerous hazard. You'd think they could even get a winch. There's a fire truck just behind it, and you'd think they could get a winch. Now, there's Martin Brundle that they're closing up on. He is in 10th position and is going to be lapped again. And he's going to be lapped by De Angelis and Prost. Martin Brundle, who had that appalling crash at Monaco last year, and then broke his leg at Dallas, having finished in a superb second position in Detroit in 1984. Well back into the swing of things, looking forward to driving the Tyrrell with the Renault engine, which is only about 3 weeks off testing now. Into the pits, Derek Warwick, 6th position. Leader, aha, we see Ayrton Senna again. Now let us admire the smooth style of Ayrton Senna on lap 23, out of 70. So he's, just over 1/3 distance, controlling the race very coolly from the front. The ex-British Formula 3 champion when he drove the Dick Bennett's Ralt so superbly in the season of 1983. Then last year, he moved up to the Tolman Grand-Pri team, where he finished second and jolly nearly won at Monaco and took the fastest lap there. Finished in 3rd place in Britain and here in Portugal, and earlier on he was in 6th position in his first Grand Prix at South Africa, where he had to be lifted exhausted out of the cockpit. Derek Warwick out of the pits, tyre change completed, Ayrton Senna, and into the pits again. If there's one thing that Pierluigi Martini is learning in this race, it's how to approach the pits, because that's about the 4th time he's done it. Senna. And while we look at Ayrton Senna, behind him the battle for 6th position rages between Niki Lauda and Derek Warwick, and it's the world champion Niki Lauda that's got it. He's got into 6th position ahead of Warwick. Behind 5th place man Patrick Tombay. Alboreto is still 4th, Prost is still 3rd, De Angelis is still 2nd, the leader is still Senna.
Well, Niki Lauda's never been a great...
There's 11 cars left in the race. When I say effectively, I mean that have not been lapped at least twice. And now Ferrari there. The battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th is indeed a very close one. There's 2nd, there is Alboreto. Now, for the first time, for a long time, we're seeing the new 1985 revamped Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, who joined the Ferrari team last year after driving for Tyrrell. And incidentally, stop and think how many Tyrrell drivers have driven for Ferrari. Jody Scheckter, Didier Pironi, now Alboreto, and the fourth one, Stefan Johansson. And Alain Prost all over the rear of Elio De Angelis' car, but Elio, who in his spare time incidentally is a concert pianist, and a brilliant one too, is just calmly sitting there knowing that Prost has got to take an enormous chance to get out from underneath his wing, exit that gigantic wall of spray that the JPS Lotus is creating, and get past, because the speed differential between the two cars is very, very little indeed. If Prost could get past De Angelis, I'm sure he'd be able to pull away, but he can't.
Yes, there's no doubt he could lap quicker on his own, but the McLaren really has quite a straight line speed disadvantage here when we get onto the main straight, which is into turn one. And really this track is pretty twisty, and with the spray and the general difficulties, those passing opportunities are pretty limited, and this, is, of course, has enabled Alboreto to join in the fun, although at the moment he doesn't look too threatening. I think he's pretty much on the limit staying with them, and also I think the Ferrari is a similar straight line speed-wise to the McLaren.
Lap 25, just over 1/3 distance. Senna leads, De Angelis second, Prost third, Alboreto fourth, Tournbay fifth, Lauda sixth, and coming up into the picture fast, and hopefully we will see him soon, is Nigel Mansell, who started from the pit lane. There is Piquet's Brabham still in the pits again, and Mansell is now up into 7th position. And hopefully we'll see the Englishman in his Williams with Keke Rosberg, his teammate, out of the race, and Rosberg's Williams stalled on the course in a very dangerous position, and no sign of it being moved out of the way. De Angelis second, Prost number 2, third. Behind him, Michele Alboreto, number 27, the man who won the Belgian Grand Prix last year to make it his 3rd Grand Prix victory, 2 of the others in the Tyrrell. JPS Lotus first and second. Lap 25, almost completed then, and it's still the 2 JPSs in the lead, Senna and De Angelis. Prost in 3rd position, Alboreto 4th, Tournbay 5th, Lauda 6th, and Nigel Mansell 7th, coming up fast.
Thanks, Murray. A long, long way to go in that, and we'll be back bucketing down. It was on the 25th lap. Ayrton Senna was out front in the Lotus from teammate Elio De Angelis, but Alain Prost in the McLaren was chasing them hard. Let's pick up the action again now with James Hunt and Murray Walker.
Prost now right up with De Angelis yet again, and you can see the gap that's built up now between Prost number 2 in 3rd position and Alboreto in the Ferrari in 4th place. This is the race at the Portuguese Grand Prix, because Senna is still out there on his own. Baldi into the pits yet again.
Yes, I think we're getting to the stage in the race where Prost is going to have to do something brave. He's going to have to really screw up his courage, shut his eyes and have a go, because De Angelis is driving too steadily for him, and with that little straight line speed advantage, there really doesn't seem to be much prospect for Prost to get past, and so he may have to just shut his eyes and pray as he goes into a corner and try and get in really quickly past De Angelis, because on the main straight he loses just that much ground, and that was a bit lively there. I think that was Piquet who was a little bit in the way then, but he got out of it quite sharply without any mishap. And you get an idea, just trying to look at the rear light when we see a full back view shot, how wet the track is now and how much spray they're having to contend with. It really is streaming wet. The rain has steadily increased in its volume during the course of the race, and it's now a really soaking, miserable afternoon.
Have a close look at Elio De Angelis' Lotus when you can, and you will see a significant specification difference. There is that behind the front wheels there are 2 vertical spoilers, deflectors if you like, the object of which is to enable clean air to go into the side pods, which is where the cooling is, and to help downforce. And just in front of the rear wheels, you'll see on each side a little wing. You can see it very clearly now, and the object of that is to throw air up and onto the back of the rear wing, and you saw there those vertices. JBS Lotus second, Senna and De Angelis, both with V6 Renault turbocharged engines, ahead of the Marlboro McLaren V6 tag-powered car of Frenchman Alain Prost. There is the Ferrari number 27 of Michele Alboreto, and Nelson Piquet having a really miserable Portuguese Grand Prix into the pits.
Yes, it occurs to me that one thing, of course, we've got to watch out for now is that this race will not be the full distance. The track is sufficiently wet that the average speed is now under 100 miles an hour, and the rules state, there's Piquet in the pits again. I think looks like they're running a bit of a tire test now. But the rules state that the Grand Prix shall be 200 miles, or in fact just under 200 miles, or 2 hours, whichever is the greater, and undoubtedly the race is going to stop at 2 hours, because there's no way they will have completed full race distance by then, and the rain is now even harder.
Yes, it makes me think of Monaco 1984, and those of you who remember watching that race or were there, and an enormous number of British people were there, will recall that has to have been one of the worst wet weather Grand Prix in the history of motorsport, and this is certainly no better. Now, the rain is coming down as badly now as it did at Monaco, and it would never surprise me to see the race stopped very quickly.
Yes, the only thing is what gets races stopped, of course, is the potential aquaplaning, and if streams of water are either lying on or running across the track. And I've been looking around the circuit on the monitor here, watching the cars, and I don't see any places where the cars appear to be aquaplaning badly. Oh, well, somebody has aquaplaned into the fence rather hard.
Yeah, fourth, Torbay fifth, Lauda sixth, John Watson, your comments.
Because he does get close to De Angelis, but he cannot see anything. I mean, I don't know what he's looking at, other than the reference points that he may have by the side of the track, but the concentration required to know where you are on the track and at the same time try to pass the car ahead of you and defend your rear with Alboreto right on his tail will be extremely demanding of his concentration.
You could see that the Ceteris there in the Ligier was sneaking even on the approach roads to the pits. Prost goes through, he's ahead of Chiva, and Ayrton Senna has been waving as he went past the pits, as Prost did at Monaco. He's waving at the officials to say, stop the race. And this is ironic, because Senna complained vociferously, to put it mildly, at Monaco.
And that was on the straight. Now, there's water on the track. That must, I think, have been an aquaplaning situation. Feels that if Prost could be handed a race like that, then so should he be. But at the same time, he's obviously been sensible, because that clearly contravenes what I said a few minutes ago, and there is now sufficient rain, because it's really pouring down, and there must be water lying on the track and causing this aquaplaning. So Alain Prost, once again, in tricky conditions, has made error while others survive, and this has stopped, as we've seen over the last 3 seasons. It's these little moments that have stopped Prost. I feel very sorry for him, because, as John Watson was just saying, in the most difficult circumstances, he couldn't see where he was going, right? He may not be able to see the river because he was in De Angelis' spray, but yet again, it's been Prost's mistake, and that's cost him the last 3 world championships. For some aquaplaning, that part of the track is okay. I don't see any rivers running across it. Senna's car looks reasonably steady.
Yes, and if Prost goes off, just think how superb a race Ayrton Senna that you're looking at and Elio De Angelis have been driving. And what they will now be wondering on lap 32 out of 70, as we look at the race leader Ayrton Senna, followed by Elio De Angelis. In 3rd position now Alboreto, 4th Torbay, 5th Lauda, and 6th onto the leaderboard Nigel Mansell. What they must be wondering, they being the race officials, is can they keep the race going at least until 3/4 distance? If they go to 3/4 distance before they stop the race, it will count a Fischer and Elio De Angelis, who've driven so well, are concerned. 3/4 distance is 1.5 hours. This race started at 2:30. It's now nearly 3:35. so they have to keep it going for another 25 minutes or so, James.
Yeah, actually, they were a little bit late sending them off. I didn't take the exact time, but it was more like 3:35 or 2:35, 2:40 when they started. They haven't quite completed an hour yet. So they've still got a fair way to go, and if the conditions are as bad as Senna's signal suggests and Prost's spin suggests, then I don't suppose they'll want to soldier around like that for another half an hour. But there is Senna. He's keeping it all on the island. He's got a nice big cushion to play with, and his one job, which, believe you me, is not easy, keeping one of those things on the track, even without aquaplaning problems. And with aquaplaning, that is Lauda, who's driving very conservatively. He has been lapped. He's still in 6th place. And Mansell, who was catching him quite quickly, is still catching him, but not nearly as quickly, and he's some 15 seconds still behind Niki Lauda. So Lauda, for the time being, is in the points.
Lap 33, race order. Ayrton Senna leads, De Angelis second, Alboreto third, Tombay fourth. Prost out of the race, Lauda fifth, Mansell in 6th position now in the points, Eddie Cheever 7th, Beloff 8th, Warwick is 9th, Ginzani is 10th and has been lapped 3 times. Niki Lauda looks as though he might close the points difference between himself and Alain Prost, who when this race started was 9 points ahead of Lauda in the World Championship by virtue of Prost's victory in Brazil and Niki Lauda failing to finish. And Niki Lauda is right up now with Stefan Johansson, who is 4 laps adrift of the leaders, whereas Niki Lauda is only 1 lap adrift of the leaders, has been lapped once. But Stefan Johansson, I doubt, will make it easy for Niki Lauda to pass him. On lap 33, Senna is now 37 seconds ahead of De Angelis. There's a bit of a breathing space for De Angelis, although Michele Alboreto, who is 9 seconds behind him, will know from his pit signals that he's gained a place and will start to charge again as soon as he can. Into the pits for what? About the 4th time comes Piquet. Twice he's been in for tyres. I can't believe that it's for tyres again. There's Prost's car on the right as Niki Lauda, his teammate, passes the broker. Have just about, in 10 seconds' time, completed 1 hour. So there's still another half hour to go if they're going to go to 3/4 distance for full World Championship points. But of course, if they stop the race from half distance, and half 70 is 35, and we're just approaching that now, laps, they would get half points as they did at
End it for today, and there's his teammate Niki Lauda still with his car intact. But I couldn't really see what caused that, whether he aquaplaned or whether he was just blind as he came into the braking area. He may have missed his braking point, because it really is that difficult to see in all that spray. And if he just stamped those brakes a little bit too hard, that could equally have caused the back end just to get away from him.
Yes, it's appalling, this slippery. You saw when Johansson changed down a gear there and increased traction on the rear wheels, he just momentarily had a slide, which he immediately recaptured. But Mansell there then on the same lap as Niki Lauda, 1 lap behind the leader. And the leaders have lapped everybody up to Patrick Tambay, who is in 4th position. Tambay, who finished 5th in Brazil to score 2 World Championship points, looks as though he'll be in the points again, provided he can finish. And as James pointed out, Niki Lauda, the world champion #1, is in no great hurry.
In the Portuguese Grand-Pri, when we left it, Ayrton Senna was in the lead, well in the lead in his Lotus, from his teammate, De Angelis. And with Alain Prost having spun off, Alboreto and the Ferrari had gone up into 3rd place. Well, as we rejoin the race, just after the halfway stage, it's still raining buckets. Nigel Mansell is making a little bit of a move. So let's rejoin our commentators James Hunt and Murray Walker.
Alboreto is certainly within striking distance of the 2nd place man. And do you?
Yes, well, he won't be doing anything mechanical to look after the car particularly, because, as we said right, it's quite obvious that he can keep pace with to De Angelis behind him very easily because he's pulling away, and for sure he's not particularly trying to pull away. You don't. There are no prizes for having a lead of over a minute or anything, and there's no need. So what he will be doing is watching the track surface very carefully, looking for big puddles and lying water that could possibly cause the car to aquaplane, and he'll be treating back markers on the cars that he's lapping with the utmost caution. His only problem now is to avoid making any sort of an error, and believe you me, these sort of conditions are very unforgiving, and the slightest error and you're off and it's all over and you kick yourself all the way home. But Senna has shown a great maturity in his driving. He's shown a great talent in every area, and particularly in the wet. There goes crossed for the first half of the race, and that proves how tiring it is on the concentration. He then let that go, but here we see it again. You see now this time the engine has just simply gone down the conventional line, allowing Alboreto to get inside him to the dominant position, and now you'll see that I think he was just getting a little bit tighter, has split the two JPS Lotuses. There, of course, is Senna, who is miles clear, and Alboreto up into second place, and I would suspect that Alboreto will be able to pull away from De Angelis, albeit probably not terribly quickly. He won't be in a big hurry either.
Lap 44, and the significant thing also about Alboreto's charge there, past De Angelis into second place, was that in the process he moves into the lead in the World Championship, provided he finishes where he is now. He got 6 points for second place in Brazil. He would get another 6 for second place in Portugal, giving him 12 points altogether. Crossed the previous championship leader out of the race. Elio De Angelis, who was third in the championship when this race began, would get another 4 points to take him up to 8 in total. And Nigel Mansell, as I talk to you, is closing on Niki Lauda, who is in 5th position, and hopefully we'll see that. The gap between Senna in the lead, Alboreto in second, as you see, just under 59 seconds, nearly a full minute, and we are on lap 44 out of 70, so Senna can afford to, in doing so, and you can see the spoiler behind the front wheel, that's a good shot of it, in doing so considerably increase the gap between himself and Alboreto, who had just passed him. That's the race leader, Senna. He's coming up to Ghinzani now, who is in 10th position, 4 laps behind the leader. Lap 45 out of 70, Ayrton Senna in the lead, closing up on to lap Ghinzani again. Now some 58 seconds of a new second place man, Michele Alboreto, with De Angelis third, Torbay fourth, Lauda fifth, a lap
there of just how careful Ayrton Senna is being, and that's mature driving. He was lapping Ghinzani, I think it was, who...
Enormous amount of experience, Ayrton Senna, because although he's only 25 years old, he's been driving in some kind of motor competition since he was about 12, initially in karts, and of course you get the most competitive wheel-to-wheel experience in karts that is possible to imagine, droves of them all rushing around together, and he did supremely well in that before he moved up to Formula Ford 1600, in which he became British in his first year of Grand-Pri racing in the Toleman team. It's absolutely belting down, if you're wondering. You can see from the spray how bad it is, but the spray can come up like that when the course is wet, even if it's not raining. But I assure you that it is hammering down just as badly as it did, and I wish we could have a look at the Mansell-Lauda scrap, because Niki Lauda in 5th position now has got Nigel Mansell only 100 yards behind him, as the two Ferraris together with Johansson ahead of Alboreto go into turn 1, and Johansson looks in his mirrors, turns his head, sees Michele alongside him, lets him through. You can now, there is the McLaren, and if Mansell goes on like this, Niki Lauda is only just going. The McLaren of Lauda and the Williams of Nigel Mansell in his first season with the Didcot team absolutely together. Please let us have a look at it. De Angelis second. when we get to the long straight, if the producer is still favouring De Angelis, you will see Lauda and endeavour to keep Nigel Mansell behind him or just let him through. It's not like the world champion Niki Lauda to give in. I'm looking across the course at them now, and Mansell is through. Nigel Mansell is up into 5th position ahead of Niki Lauda. The race order then on lap 47. There is Lauda, and the race order is Senna, Alboreto, De Angelis, Tombe, Mansell 5th, Lauda 6th, Beloff 7th, Warwick 8th, Johansson 9th, and he could win his second Grand Prix for Ferrari.
The gap to Ayrton Senna now, and whether he is having a charge at him and feels that he could stand an outside chance of catching him or not, I wouldn't care to hazard a guess. But we have about 35 minutes left of the race to run if the oil stops and a result called.
And Patrick Tombe is in 4th position, which is lap 67, laps short of the originally intended distance of 70 laps because of the 2-hour rule applying. And Ayrton Senna leads on that last lap from Michele Alboreto by a commanding 75 seconds, 1 minute and 15 seconds. He comes up to Stefan Johansson now to lap him. Johansson moves over and the Williams of Nigel Mansell goes through, but Senna leads on his last lap from Alboreto, with Tombe in 3rd position, De Angelis in 4th place, Mansell in 5th position, and Beloff in 6th place. And as we watch Ayrton Senna concluding his last lap of the Portuguese Grand Prix to come home and win his first Grand Prix victory, Michele Alboreto will be leading the World Championship from Prost and Senna tying on 9 points with Alboreto 12. De Angelis will be 4th with 7 points and Tombe 5th, 1 point behind on 6. Lotus will be leading, Team Lotus will be leading the Constructors' Championship with 16 points, 1 ahead of Ferrari 2nd, with McLaren 3rd on 9 and Renault 4th on 6. But the man of the 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix is and has been all through practice and all through the race. This man, Ayrton Senna, in the JPS Team Lotus, he exits the corner and he comes down the straight, and apparently, am I seeing things correctly, there's been, out goes the checkered flag, and Ayrton Senna has already got his shoulder straps undone. It's been a quite incredible Grand Prix victory, because that young head on young shoulders has shown a marvellous tactical brain, and he's now being escorted home, as it were, by the 2 Renaults, and the Renault, he's got a Renault engine, of Patrick Tombe and Derek Warwick. And the race order is victory for Ayrton Senna. 2nd place, Michele Alboreto. 3rd position, Patrick Tombe. 4th position, Elio De Angelis. 5th position, Nigel Mansell. 6th place, Stefan Beloff.
Doing it then. There you see the championship table. Michele Alboreto is the leader now on 12 points from Prost, who had to pull out of that race, or spun off rather, and Senna after his first ever Grand Prix win. De Angelis, his teammate, is behind him. Then Tombe, René Arnoux.
The Frenchman.